Welcome back to Loop Theme Park Adventures and the next video in our grading series, where we consider 5 aspects that can make or break a theme park visit and give each of them a grade from A+ to F-, followed by an overall grade at the end. In this video, I'm reflecting on a visit to Drayton Manor in Staffordshire, UK, based on a visit on Sunday the 19th of July 2020. Drayton Manor is a family-focused park which also features a handful of thrill attractions as well. Their roller coaster lineup consists of Europe's only Intamin stand-up coaster, Shockwave, Accelerator, which is a Vekoma family boomerang model, and 2 children's roller coasters in the form of Troublesome Trucks and Buffalo Coaster. There are a number of thrilling flat rides such as their gyro swing Maelstrom, Apocalypse, which is a drop tower that features sit-down and stand-up options, Pandemonium, an inverting gondola swing, Air Race, a Zamperla inverting airplane ride, as well as many other theme park staples such as a pirate ship, Wave Swinger, and Drunken Barrels, which is a teacup-style ride. Stormforce 10 is the park's primary water attraction. Like I mentioned earlier though, Drayton is primarily a family-focused park, and the busiest section of the park is Thomas Land, an area featuring a wide variety of attractions themed to characters from Thomas the Tank Engine. This includes a whole host of child-friendly rides such as mini drop towers, a crazy bus, a balloon ride, a driving school, and various others. There is also Thomas, Rosie and Percy Engine Tours, which is a themed train ride, a couple of adventure play areas, and the Thomas and Friends exhibition. The park also features 2 dark rides, The Haunting and Sheriff's Showdown, and a 4D cinema, although these and many other rides were not operating during our visit. More on that later. This gets a C+. For the size of the park, it's not a bad selection of rides. However, the removal of G-Force at the end of the 2019 season has left a gap in the thrill ride lineup. The focus very much seems to be on the Thomas Land section of the park, which is fantastic for families with younger children. Drayton Manor is a very picturesque place, with many rides and attractions based around a large lake which acts as a centrepiece for the park and offers a wonderful landscape, especially from the front of the park looking across to the pirate ship, Shockwave and Stormforce. It's clean and tidy, and it feels like the park takes pride in its appearance. They also have a zoo on site which features a wide variety of different animal exhibits as well as a little dinosaur park. The zoo exhibits are largely unthemed and each enclosure looks very similar to the next, but this is still a nice area to have a wander around to take a break from the rides for a short while. The park felt very busy on the day we visited, with many areas, Thomas Land in particular, being very crowded, making social distancing quite challenging. There were also a lot of rides not operating and a considerable amount of ride downtime, which I'll go into more detail on in the next section, but this certainly contributed to quite a negative vibe on the park, as many guests became frustrated and angry. Grading this a B-. Drayton Manor is a beautiful looking park with some nice views across the lake, but the volume of guests on site combined with limited attractions being available did create something of a negative atmosphere. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room straight off the bat. This was probably the worst day of operations I've ever experienced in 30 years of visiting theme parks. For starters, there were a number of major attractions which we knew were likely to be closed and were advised on Drayton Manor's website, such as Shockwave and Stormforce. But in fact, the whole back section of the park, including all of the shops and restaurants, were closed, and it was like a ghost town. This I could accept if all the other attractions were up and running, but unfortunately just about every major thrill ride suffered extended downtime throughout the day. Maelstrom opened for about 2 hours. I was in the queue for around 90 minutes of that, largely as it broke down on numerous occasions while I waited. Eventually it got closed down for the day just as I reached the front of the line. Apocalypse suffered downtime for quite some time too, as did Pandemonium. With indoor rides such as The Haunting and Sheriff's Showdown also not open, this meant that all available attractions built up huge queues. This brings me to another issue. There was no visibility of ride wait times anywhere, including on the app which simply says ride times not available. And Thomas Land operates a virtual queuing system which was largely confusing for guests. It's worth noting that this was only the second day of full operations for the season, but for there to be so many issues with ride reliability on one day is quite poor, and is compounded by the fact that many major rides weren't yet open while the park figured out ways to operate them safely during the pandemic. However, with the majority of Drayton Manor's competitors opening 2 weeks earlier, you'd have thought they would have had time to figure out some of these issues and put processes in place. Okay, so that's my operations rant out of the way. On the flip side, I have to say that the customer service was broadly very good. Guest services were inundated with complaints. In fact, I felt quite sorry for them as none of those issues were really their fault, but they handled the situation well and were offering complimentary return tickets to guests, refunds or free fast passes. We accepted return tickets for later in the season. Social distancing markers were clear and visible in all queue lines, and ride staff were explaining where people should stand while queuing and ensuring guests stuck to the rules. Hand sanitizer was located throughout the park and at the entry and exit to rides. So this gets an E-. The only reason this doesn't get an F is down to the efforts of the staff who went above and beyond to placate guests who were frustrated and disappointed with the number of ride issues. However, this doesn't make up for the fact that in 5.5 hours on park, we only managed to get on 2 rides, which simply is not good enough. Dining options were fairly limited, with many of the food outlets offering a takeout service only, which is understandable in the current climate. These feature a couple of tea shops, burger kitchen, chicken diner, a fish and chip place, fun foods and some kiosks dotted around the park. With the limited options available and the volume of guests on site, queues for food were very long, with wait times just to place an order being around 30 to 40 minutes. We ended up just grabbing a pasty, cake and drink at Humble Pies, which was decent enough. Prices were standard theme park fare, slightly inflated compared to town centre prices, but nothing too unreasonable. This gets a C-. The food options available were fine, but as with many other parks, the limited number of outlets available did create large queues at peak times, and seating was quite hard to come by. For an adult, a Drayton Manor day ticket will cost £28.50 when booked in advance, or £39.50 if you book on the day. A ticket for a child aged between 4 and 11 costs £24.50 in advance, or £29.50 on the day, and for 2 to 3 year olds you will pay £8.50. Kids under 2 go free. As with most theme parks at this time, pre-booking is essential as no tickets are available on the gate. Car parking costs £6 for the day. On-ride photos were not available on our visit, so I can't comment on the price there, and food prices were in line with similar theme parks. There are 4 retail outlets on site, 3 of which are currently open, selling merchandise such as soft toys, clothing, sweets, mugs, key rings, and lots of Thomas the Tank Engine paraphernalia. Grading this a B-. Looking at the bigger picture, if all rides are up and running and you book in advance, then it's not a bad price, and fees for items and services on site are broadly in line with what you'd expect to pay at a UK theme park. Although if I were to grade the value for money on what we personally experienced on our visit, then it would be much lower. So overall this gets a D-. This was really not a great day for the park, with considerable ride downtime, far too many guests in the park to feel safe and a negative atmosphere. However, there are 2 key things to point out which prevented this from being an E grade. Firstly, the park did offer guests the option of a return ticket or a refund, which is good customer service. Secondly, a couple of weeks after our visit, Drayton Manor was sold to the Looping Group, so I have to consider that our experience isn't necessarily representative of how the park is being operated now, less than 2 months later. We'll be using our return tickets to visit again before the end of the season, and we'll regrade Drayton Manor with an open mind, so I hope a more positive experience awaits us in the near future. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and get involved in the discussion in the comments below. If you'd like to follow our theme park adventures, then subscribe to the channel and enable notifications. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/looptpa and on Instagram @looptpa.